preparations made. Yes, we are ready for transport, the 5 of us and 10 high-ranking generals. Do you think we need more numbers to win this fight? No. Once we gain power in the Master Realm, we can remake the land any way we wish and allow for newborns to rise. But what if we fail? We do not foresee this. Why the reservations? I am just making it clear to us that there is no turning back. We must know the consequences. We know what is at stake. If we fail, then the Overseer race ceases to exist. The other's sacrifice is inevitable, regardless of what we do. Then it is settled. Let's go back home and bring the fight back to the Elders. On to the Temple of the Eye.
Welcome to the quest for the Green Ball! The War Within! Just 3 weeks left and divisional and wildcard races are a little tighter, with all 3 divisions still up for grabs as we enter the 5th divisional matchup week of the season. Last week wreaked havoc in our league as injuries continued to take a toll on us, especially some of us who would be in the playoffs if the season ended today. 3 teams were also officially eliminated from playoff contention, including 2024 champion Pounders, another 2024 playoff team in 2-time champion Loki Lebowski Thor, and the Stellar Bitches. We also have a new number 1 overall seed at the moment thanks to the result in our last as Treatum and Needham took on Green Acres in Ordis. This was not the result any of us expected, as Treatum and Needham pulled out a 78.2 to 72.74 win here. The players to watch were essentially the keys, as T. Higgins outplayed Rasheed Rice. Higgins finished with 63 yards and a touchdown. Rice was held to just 38 yards in the tough matchup against Denver. Treatum and Needham only had 255 yards and a touchdown by Jared Goff, who also threw a touchdown. But Deebo Samuel stepped up with 77 yards and a score, and the Texans' defense added 3 sacks and a fumble recovery. Brandon Aubrey clinched the win with a 50-plus yard field goal on Monday night. Green Acres had 96 yards and a score by Kyron Williams, and Cairo Santos went off with 4 field goals, including a 50-plus yarder. The Ravens' defense added 3 sacks and an interception, but it just wasn't enough. Treatum and Yeet moved to 9-2 and is ahead of Golden Ticket by head-to-head tiebreaker for that number 1 overall seed right now. and also is 2 games in first in the Shadow Division. Green Acres fell to 5-6, but remains just 1 game back in the Dream Division. The ruler of knowledge belongs to Thor-lacher as they held off Golden Ticket in a very surprising 56.74 to 51.92 win. Derrick Henry had 122 yards and a score, and Travis Etienne finished with 73 yards and 2 touchdowns. Golden Ticket had 100 yards by Rico Dowdle, 119 yards by Drake London, and a touchdown by Devontae Adams. It didn't help that Amari DiMercato and London were injured here. It also didn't help that Jamar Chase is now suspended for Spitgate. Thor-lacher moves to 7-4 and remains in one of the wild card positions. Golden Ticket falls to 9-2 and is now number 2 overall in the league. Remember, the Titans also remains in one of the wild card positions after holding on to the Golden Pen with a 109.84 to 64.66 beatdown against The Stars Are Right squad. Travion Henderson, a key waiver pickup, went off for 93 yards and 3 touchdowns. Drake May also threw a touchdown, and George Kittle added 2 scores. Jackson Smith and Jigba finished with 116 yards, and Jamar Gibbs had 146 yards. Stars Are Right finally had injuries catch up and some down games as well by usually dependable stars. Devon Achane did have 165 yards, and Jordan Addison caught a touchdown late. And those are really the only highlights there. Remember, the Titans is now 7-4, while the Stars Are Right fall to 6-5, clinging to a 1-game lead in the Dream Division. The Clash Head Demon Head is also in a wild card position as they eliminated Loki Lebowski Thor from playoff contention with a 109.02 to 76.12 victory. Christian McCaffrey went off for 121 yards and 3 touchdowns to lead the way. James Cook added 114 yards in the score, and Travis Kelce also caught a touchdown. Trevor Lawrence had 2 touchdowns. Trey McBride finished with 115 yards and a score for Lebowski Thor, but that was about it. The Clash Head Demon Head is 7-4 and remains 2 games back in the Shadow Division. Lebowski Thor is 2-9 with the goal to now avoid the Dick Butt Bowl. The Overcomers remain in the playoff hunt with a 101.18, 86.72 victory over the Stellar Bitches. Josh Allen is the main reason. Allen went insane, 317 passing yards, 40 rushing yards, and 6 total touchdowns. He threw 2 picks, or he would have scored over 50 points. Jake Ferguson also caught a touchdown, and Jason Myers had 4 field goals. Dak Prescott finished with 4 touchdowns for the Stellar Bitches, and Bijan Robinson added 143 yards and 2 touchdowns. The rest of the team underperformed as they fell to 3-8 and are officially eliminated from the playoffs with the wins by Thor-lacher, the Clash at Demon Head, and Remember the Titans. The Overcomers moved to 5-6 and are just 1 game back in the Dream Division and 2 games back in the Wild Card with 3 to play. Lastly, the reign of Pounders is officially over as the Fighting Mooses picked up an 85.1 to 65.3 win. Michael Wilson led the way with 185 yards, and Kenneth Walker added 111 yards and a touchdown. Jalen Hurts scored as well. Nico Collins had a nice game with 92 yards and a touchdown. Matthew Stafford led Pounders with 2 touchdowns. CeeDee Lamb added 66 yards and a score, and the Cowboys defense finished with 4 sacks, a safety, and an interception. But in the end, Pounders falls to 2-9 and is now out of the playoffs, ending his bid to defend his Green Ball title. The Fighting Mooses move to 4-7 and are 2 games back in the Dream Division and still holding on by a thread in the wild card race. Looking at the divisional races, this week's matchups will be huge as titles can be clinched in 2 of them. The Dream Division is the closest with 1 game separating 3 teams. The Stars Are Right team still has a bit of a points advantage, but we should get clarity into the race after this week with a 1v4 and a 2v3 matchup going on. Treat 'em and Yeet 'em is not going to be caught by points tiebreaker, but head-to-head and divisional record is still a possibility. A win and a Thor-lacher loss would clinch the division, though. But this 1v2 matchup this week will let us know who really has the edge here. Lastly, the Power Division is surprisingly still not decided. Golden Ticket has a 36-point advantage on Remember the Titans and can clinch the division with a win this week. But a loss in this 1v2 matchup could make things interesting. Of course, Treat 'em and Yeet 'em and Golden Ticket can celebrate playoff berths already. They are guaranteed to at least be wild cards right now. But I am guessing they want division titles and first-round byes. After the starts of the seasons they've had, it might be a disappointment if they fell to a wild card. The others still alive just want to get into the playoffs, including me. Just want to get into the playoffs at the moment. That's all that matters with how tight it is. And in the next, we have a divisional matchup in the Shadow Division that was expected to be bigger than it is. But it still could be a decider in the playoff race as 7-4 Thor-lacher takes on 2-9 Pounders in the Kingdom of Power. Before we dive into this matchup, let's check in on our progress in the Master Realm.
We need to find Franklin before it's too late.
I'm sorry, Constance. The scavengers do not take prisoners. But it doesn't make sense. Why carry him away? Something is not adding up. I see what you mean, Dream Priest, but it could be a tactic to scare us or give us false hope to lead us into a trap. But how did they even find Franklin with your staff confusing them? I do not know. I am as surprised as both of you. And I'm saddened as I consider Franklin a friend. I consider all of you friends. But as I said, I do not know everything. My council friends have more insights because of their staffs.
What do you mean? You all have different powers?
Yes, only the top 5 council members have the seeing eye. They can see all that is happening in real time.
Then why didn't they warn us?
This is true, Kian. It feels like a betrayal. I will not believe that. I have a duty, and that is to get you all safely to the Temple of the Eye. I've already failed with Franklin's fate.
And I won't believe Franklin's dead. He can't be.
Well, if he isn't, we'll find out soon. We're now in the Elder Stronghold, the Kingdom of Power. And I'm a little worried about how quiet everything is. I still feel something isn't right. We need to get off these streets. Yes, let's take a tunnel I know will help guide us to the courtyard. Let's just hope the elders don't have a plan for us down there.
I assume they also see everything in real time.
Elder magic is a little different, but yes, their council also uses a similar staff. Then why wouldn't they just pick us off now? They know we're close. They might be luring us into a trap to take the Green Bowl away. Possibly, but the League actually has a power over it as well.
What do you mean now?
The Elder Magic was meant to be a trap for the Shadows, but now that the Shadows have used the Green Bowl to get back here, the power is bonded to each League member, especially the former champions. This could be good. What do you mean, Mario? If they need us for something or realize they do, they could be sparing us until they get what they want. And if that's the case, Franklin might just be a prisoner. Yes, it is possible. But the elders are not kind. Torture would be coming to gain information they don't possess. My guess is it's about you, Mario. I know they fear you, Dream Priest.
I have a good guess to where they took Franklin then. The Temple of the Eye. Probably why no one is around this city, right? They're preparing for the Shadows and for the final battle for this Master Realm.
I think these stressful times calls for something to help get us by without getting too anxious. We knew this would be tough. It isn't easy, just like it isn't easy to make the playoffs in fantasy football. And we get a huge matchup this week. Can Thor-lacher survive a clash with a team looking to spoil their season and get closer to a playoff berth? Will Pounders use their last few games as defending champs to be a major factor in the playoff race, even if they can't make it themselves?
Franklin would have been excited about this one.
Yes, we must stay strong for Franklin and for our league friends. Wait. My head. Something's wrong.
Mario! Mario!
Constance, be very still. This is not Elder or Overseer magic. And this isn't Obscitans Abyssus. Something or someone else just transported Mario somewhere. Are the League members still in their dream state?
Looks like they are.
Good. Then let's tread carefully and get to the courtyard before it's too late. If the elders are keeping us alive, Mario disappearing might allow us to stay alive a little longer to make it inside the temple.
I just want this to be over.
Yes. It seems like our luck is running out. But I will do everything in my power to succeed. We must succeed.
Thor-lacher has a shot to clinch a playoff berth with a win here, depending on other results, and they come in with a massive 73.8% chance to win, mostly due to the uncertainty around Josh Jacobs' availability this week. The quarterback position will be key for Pounders to win big, but with Matthew Stafford going up against Tampa Bay, in a shootout potential type of game, and Patrick Mahomes taking on the Colts, which is not a slam dunk matchup. Obviously, Thor-lacher will look to lean on Derrick Henry, whom he acquired from Pounders before the season even began, in a great matchup against the Jets. Ashton Genty had a dud last week and has another tough matchup this week, so the Jacobs situation will be interesting to watch. CeeDee Lamb is who Pounders swapped for Henry in the preseason, so look for that matchup against Michael Pittman. Wan'Dale Robinson will get a boost if Jackson Dart is back from concussion, while Khalil Shakir goes up against a tough Houston D on the other side. Tyler Warren is the better tight end on paper, but all it takes is a touchdown, and if Dart returns, Theo Johnson gets a boost. Nick Chubb is a good matchup, but is likely a touchdown-dependent player, and both kickers are expected to get chances here. Both defenses have tough matchups, though both usually play in low-scoring games regardless of opponent, so we'll see what happens. But there are two running backs I'm watching here. For Thor-lacher, I look at Travis Etienne Jr., the Jaguars. Etienne suddenly has a shoulder injury, but isn't expected to miss time. Backup Bashal Tutin has played like the 1B to Etienne's 1A in this offense, but he also is listed on the injury report with an ankle injury. Etienne is having a bit of a resurgence in 2025 after a rough 2024 showing. He's up to 729 rushing yards and 130 receiving yards, already besting his overall total from a year ago. He also has 6 total touchdowns, which triples his scoring production from 2024. He has been on fire in the last 3 weeks. 135 yards against Las Vegas, 77 yards in a score against Houston, and 73 yards and 2 touchdowns last week against the Chargers. He has also had 57 carries in the last 3 weeks and 11 targets, showing he's still getting plenty of volume, even with Tutin to contend with. And this week, he gets to go up against Arizona, which are 22nd against the position this season. The Cardinals have allowed 10 rushing touchdowns and 3 receiving scores to backs this season. Since week 4, they've allowed at least 80 rushing yards to a running back in every game except one. And in that game, Josh Jacobs still had over 50 yards and 2 touchdowns. The only back to go over 100 yards was Jonathan Taylor with 123 back in week 6. But the Cardinals have also been getting blown out recently, which skews some of these statistics. Teams elect to split carries against them when the game is pretty much in hand. If Etienne could reach the end zone again and do decent enough with his yards, which seems likely if Tutin is more limited with an ankle injury, then Thor-lacher is expected to have a huge advantage that could be enough to seal a win. If Etienne himself is limited by injury, or if he cannot reach the end zone, it will probably open the door for Pounders, but Pounders needs a lot to happen. Pounders, of course, wants to limit the advantage of Henry as one of those things to happen, and he has running back Javonte Williams of the Cowboys for that purpose. Williams is having a lot of success with the Cowboys this season. A bit of a surprise, but the great passing game of Dallas is allowing for less stacked boxes, which obviously bodes well for Williams, especially inside the red zone. Williams has 809 yards and 8 scores on the ground and also has 93 yards and a touchdown through the air. He hasn't scored since week 8, but that was against a stout defense in Denver, showing he can succeed regardless of the matchup. Williams has had over 75 yards on the ground 7 times, including 2 games over 100 yards, averaging 5 yards a carry. This week, he gets the Eagles defense, which he collected 2 touchdowns against back in week 1. The Eagles are surprisingly porous against running attacks, ranked 21st against the position. They allowed 3 touchdowns to Cam Skattebo back in week 6. They also allowed 94 rushing yards to Kyron Williams in week 3, 79 rushing yards and a score to J.K. Dobbins in week 5, 57 rushing yards and a score to Jordan Mason in week 7, and 74 rushing yards and a score to Josh Jacobs in week 10. Last week, they actually stuffed the Lions, but they did allow Jahmyr Gibbs to rack up 107 yards through the air. Williams' strength is running the ball, though, and the Eagles have been shown to allow bruising backs to score inside the 5. If Williams can reach the end zone and come close to emulating his week 1 performance, that should be key to limiting the advantage of Henry on the other side. But if Williams struggles and the Eagles continue the momentum from last week when stopping the Lions' rushing attack, it could be the nail in the coffin this week. Regardless, we will need to keep our eye on this matchup as the result is meaningful. And as we learned from the last few weeks, anything can happen, especially in this league. Now, there are some other big-time matchups. Of course, we get a big one in the other Shadow Division matchup as 9-2 Treatum and Yeetum takes on 7-4 the Clash at Demon Head. A division title might be clinched, and the Clash at Demon Head might clinch a playoff spot. Treatum and Yeetum enters with a 59.4% chance to win. A big reason why is Green Bowl MVP candidate Jonathan Taylor. But Christian McCaffrey will be fun to watch on the other side, too. McCaffrey does have a way better matchup. Jared Goff versus Trevor Lawrence and James Cook versus David Montgomery also look to be key. T. Higgins versus DK Metcalf is interesting as well. And the battle of Rachaad White and Kenneth Gainwell might be a touchdown-dependent turning point for either side. The Lions' D does have the better matchup in the defensive battle. Moving on to the Power Division, we get a matchup of eliminated teams fighting to get a consolation bye. As 3-8, the Stellar Bitches takes on 2-9 Low-Key Lebowski Thor. The Stellar Bitches currently have a 70.3% chance to win, but Lebowski Thor has to switch out bye-week players. The Stellar Bitches also need a new tight end with Kincaid out. Dak Prescott versus Caleb Williams, and Bijan Robinson versus Quinshon Judkins look to be the keys. The other Power Division matchup is quite massive, with 9-2 Golden Ticket taking on 7-4 Remember the Titans. A division title is on the line here, as Golden Ticket could wrap it up with a win, and Remember the Titans can clinch a playoff berth possibly with a win. At the moment, Golden Ticket is so injured with a lot of moves to make that Remember the Titans has a 96.1% chance to win. Drake May versus Lamar Jackson is obviously massive, as is Rico Dowdle versus Jamar Gibbs. If Travion Henderson continues to shine, then Golden Ticket needs someone on the bench to step up, either Bucky Irving if healthy or Tony Pollard. The wide receiver position is an issue. Jamar Chase is obviously suspended, Drake London is injured, and with Emeka Egbuka and Jackson Smith-Njigba the face, this isn't ideal. Lastly, the Dream Division has two huge matchups. First, my 6-5 The Stars Are Right squad takes on 4-7 The Fighting Mooses. My team has a 58.4% chance to win, but it depends on Jackson Dart being back from concussion, as he will need to keep up with Jalen Hurts. Puka Nacua versus Nico Collins looks to be big, as is DeAndre Swift versus Kenneth Walker. Emmanuel Wilson could be a big waiver pickup if Josh Jacobs is out or limited, and he will have to compete with Jalen Warren on the other side. The Falcons versus Browns defense battle also looks to be huge. And we get what is essentially a division semifinal between 5-6 The Overcomers and 5-6 Green Acres. The winning team will either be tied for first, so will at least remain in the hunt. The losing team will probably be on their last breath. Green Acres comes in with a 56.9% chance to win, but it looks to be a 50-50 toss-up once the Overcomers fix their lineup. They have someone with a bye in there right now. Josh Allen versus Baker Mayfield could be this entire matchup, but Saquon Barkley versus Kyron Williams should also be big. Rashee Rice versus Juwan Jennings looks to be key as well, as is Woody Marks versus Jameson Williams in the flex. The Seahawks versus Ravens defense battle could also be a difference maker for both sides. We might know the majority of our playoff field after this week, but a few races, including final seeding, will most likely come down to the final 2 weeks. This is the defining week of multiple teams, though. A fourth could be eliminated, and we can really start to speculate Green Bowl contenders at a greater degree as the power rankings will begin to reflect who has the better chance regardless of record. It should be fun, but the pressure is high. And that's the show for the week. Hope you enjoyed it. Join us next week as we get the first of 2 flex game of the weeks to close the regular season. Plus, we get the closest we've ever been to the Temple of the Eye in our Master Realm journey. Until next time, salut. And before you go, check out the updated power rankings.